The morning had started like any other on Earth, or at least what passed for ordinary in a world that had long since stopped being ordinary. Cities stretched skyward in towers of glass and steel, vehicles hovered along invisible tracks, and humans moved with the kind of busy calm that came from centuries of technological progress. Yet beneath the surface of routine, a subtle unease hummed. People whispered about strange signals in the sky, about satellites that twitched and blinked without explanation, and about a quiet presence that felt as if the universe itself were watching. The request had been simple. Earth needed repairs. The planet's infrastructure, its climate systems, and even its orbital satellites had been deteriorating faster than any human government could manage. A coalition of nations had formed a unified plea, not for weapons, not for dominance, just for help. Humans imagined engineers, a fleet of repair drones, or maybe a few helpful algorithms that could optimize energy grids and water management. No one expected the response that arrived. They came at first as shimmering lights at the edge of the atmosphere. Ships unlike any human craft descended in careful formation, their hulls reflecting the rising sun like liquid mirrors. The largest vessel, a crescent-shaped colossus, slowed to hover above the planet, casting a shadow over entire continents. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly incomprehensible. Scientists and engineers scrambled to interpret the signals transmitted to Earth, but every code, every language, every sequence of data defied human patterns. It was as if intelligence itself had been rewritten into something both familiar and alien. The first gift was subtle. Small drones emerged from the mothership, floating down to cities and rural towns alike. They moved with grace and precision, repairing failing power lines, restoring damaged roads, and recalibrating water purification systems. Entire neighborhoods that had been suffering from blackouts or floods found themselves transformed within hours. People stepped outside, blinking in disbelief as their familiar streets shimmered with renewed life. Children laughed, elders cried, and the media broadcast every angle of the miraculous repairs. Humanity cheered. But the surprises had only begun. Within days, entire cities were upgraded with systems that had never existed before. Buildings seemed to breathe, with energy fields filtering air and controlling temperature perfectly. Vehicles responded to thought commands. Agricultural lands flourished with automated growth systems that doubled yields without the use of chemicals. And at the heart of this wave of wonder, coffee. Not just ordinary coffee, but a brew that scientists described as cognitively enhancing. One cup sharpened thought, heightened memory, and strangely inspired creativity. Cafes became hubs of human ingenuity, as engineers, scientists, and artists all found themselves producing ideas that were years ahead of their time. Humanity, despite its centuries of progress, was unprepared for the final surprise. The fleet. Ships, each larger than the tallest city on Earth, began appearing in orbit. They were armed, yes, but not in the ways humans expected. Energy shields pulsed across their hulls, weapons gleamed with unfamiliar physics, and sensors scanned the stars with a reach that extended far beyond the solar system. Initially, fear swept across governments. Military leaders argued, debated, and demanded answers. Why had they sent a war fleet when the request was only for repairs? But the aliens, if they could be called that, remained silent in words but expressive in actions. They left the fleet operational, awaiting human command. Commander Lena Torres was the first human officially chosen to interface with the fleet. She had been an astronaut, a leader, and a strategist, but none of that prepared her for what the aliens presented. Inside the flagship's control room, panels shimmered with floating symbols. Screens mapped entire galaxies in real time, and the air hummed with an energy she could feel in her bones. The ship was alive, she realized. Not in the way humans used machines, but alive in the way intelligence itself could breathe through circuits and metals. She touched the first holographic interface and found her thoughts translated into commands. Every instinct, every strategic notion became tangible. Yet not all humans reacted with awe. Some governments demanded oversight. Others feared dependency. Religious leaders called it a test of humanity. Philosophers debated morality, and ordinary citizens whispered fears of subjugation. But everywhere, people could not ignore the sudden shift. Earth had grown, evolved, and transformed in ways no human had imagined possible. Streets hummed with automated vehicles, hospitals healed faster. Research labs created solutions decades ahead. Humanity felt a rush of pride mixed with a flicker of fear. The upgrades, strangely, seemed to communicate more than any words could. Cities developed efficient patterns of resource use, suggesting solutions before humans even recognized the problems. Factories that once produced mundane goods now created exotic materials. Light as air, strong as diamond, capable of holding energy in ways humans had never theorized. Schools implemented new learning systems that adapted to each student's mind, expanding capacity and comprehension at astonishing rates. Humanity had been handed tools that could elevate the species, or overwhelm it entirely. Through all of this, the coffee continued to astonish. Lena found herself sipping it at dawn, mapping alien fleet coordinates while visions of possible futures danced in her mind. Across the planet, scientists brainstormed plans for space colonies, defense systems, and interstellar communication networks, all fueled by the same brew. It became clear that the aliens were teaching humans to think faster, act smarter, and prepare for something beyond Earth. Then came the first alert. Sensors aboard the flagship registered movements at the edge of the solar system. Ships, distant and silent, unlike anything humans had seen. The fleet pulsed, responding instinctively, as if warning the humans that their new power was not just a gift, but a responsibility. Lena's heart pounded. Humanity had been upgraded, armed, and enlightened, but the universe had not waited. Something was approaching, and when it arrived, Earth would need to decide whether to fight, flee, or negotiate in ways it had never learned. Despite the fear, Lena felt a spark of exhilaration. Humanity had been handed tools and knowledge far beyond its imagining, and for the first time, the species stood at the threshold of the stars with more than just hope. It had allies, it had power, and most importantly, it had the chance to prove that humans could rise to challenges that seemed impossible. The fleet, the upgrades, the coffee, they were not just gifts. They were a challenge, a test, and perhaps the beginning of a story humanity was only beginning to understand. For now, though, the people of Earth celebrated. Streets were alive with music, laughter, and invention. Cities gleamed under skies filled with alien vessels. And in the cafes, the rich aroma of enhanced coffee reminded humans that even in a world filled with incomprehensible technology, some simple pleasures, clarity, connection, and courage remained theirs. Humanity had requested repairs, but it had received something far greater, the tools to become a force among the stars, the guidance to think faster, and the wake-up call that survival was no longer about Earth alone. The universe was vast, and for the first time, humans felt ready to meet it, not as prey, but as pioneers, thinkers, and warriors. The first day of this new era ended with Lena standing on the observation deck of the flagship, gazing at Earth beneath her feet. The planet was more vibrant than she had ever seen. Lights glimmered in cities, forests thrived, oceans sparkled with renewed energy. The fleet hovered silently, a protective ring of steel and light, and in her hand a cup of coffee steamed gently, warming her palms as though reminding her that even amid the stars, some human comforts were eternal. The repairs had arrived. The upgrades had arrived. The fleet had arrived. But the story, the true story of humanity in this new era, was only beginning. And for the first time, the species that had once looked at the stars in fear now looked at them with ambition, curiosity, and a quiet determination that no force, alien or otherwise, could ignore. The days following the arrival of the fleet and upgrades were nothing short of extraordinary. Earth had transformed almost overnight. Cities gleamed like beacons of progress, streets hummed with energy-efficient transport, and laboratories buzzed with discoveries that had previously seemed impossible. Humanity could scarcely believe the speed of the change, yet even amidst the excitement a question lingered in every mind. Why had the aliens given these gifts? Commander Lena Torres had begun to settle into her role aboard the flagship. Each day, she learned to communicate with the ship in ways that felt almost like telepathy. The controls responded to thought, and the displays projected visions of the galaxy far beyond the solar system. She could feel the heartbeat of the fleet, a rhythm that pulsed like the steady beat of a giant drum across space. At first, it had been disorienting, almost overwhelming, but over time, Lena discovered a sense of harmony. She was beginning to understand the logic of the alien systems, and with each passing day, her confidence grew. On Earth, society had begun to adapt in remarkable ways. Cities now operated with a seamless efficiency. Energy consumption dropped dramatically as alien technologies optimized every aspect of daily life. Water shortages disappeared as purification systems worked perfectly, recycling and replenishing resources automatically. Agricultural zones flourished, producing food in quantities that had once been unimaginable. Humanity had been given tools to survive, but also tools to thrive. The coffee remained a constant fascination. Every human who drank it felt sharper, more creative, and more alert. In laboratories and research centers, scientists developed new methods of propulsion, medicine, and communication. Engineers designed structures that defied conventional physics. Even artists produced works that seemed to capture the very essence of life itself. The coffee was subtle yet profound. It did not force the mind to work, it enhanced it. And while some wondered why the aliens had included it, most accepted it as a gift to inspire growth and ingenuity. Despite the wonders, not all humans were comfortable with the rapid changes. Governments struggled to assert control over technologies they barely understood. Some worried that dependence on alien systems could leave humanity vulnerable. Philosophers debated morality, while military leaders worried about the fleet's presence. Lena noticed the tension, the quiet unease beneath the surface of excitement. She understood it. Humanity had been given unprecedented power, and power without understanding could be dangerous. The first true test arrived unexpectedly. Sensors aboard the flagship detected unknown vessels approaching from the outer reaches of the solar system. They moved silently, efficiently, and with a purpose that felt almost predatory. Lena's heart raced as the fleet responded automatically, its shields and weapon systems activating in a synchronized pulse. The alien upgrades allowed humanity to see, understand, and react faster than ever before. But even with this advantage, the approaching ships were formidable. Earth's leaders convened emergency meetings. Military commanders argued for offensive action, scientists called for caution, and diplomats urged negotiation. Lena, however, saw the bigger picture. Humanity had been upgraded, yes, but the fleet was not just a weapon. It was a tool, a puzzle, and a test. The aliens had given them not only power but responsibility, and how humanity responded would define the species' future. The unknown ships reached the edge of the solar system within hours. They were unlike anything humans had encountered. Massive, angular vessels that glimmered with an energy signature unfamiliar to Earth technology. Lena coordinated the fleet's movements, using the alien interface to anticipate the ship's maneuvers. Every decision was instant, every command precise. Humanity was learning at a speed that would have been impossible without the upgrades. On the surface, civilians watched the sky with a mix of fear and awe. The shimmering fleet above Earth was a silent guardian, yet the tension was palpable. Families held each other tightly, schools paused their lessons, and the world seemed to hold its breath. For many, the situation was surreal. Humanity had asked for help, received unimaginable gifts, and now faced an unknown threat, all within a matter of days. As the unknown ships drew closer, Lena discovered something remarkable. The fleet, though alien, seemed to anticipate not only enemy movements, but human intentions. It was as if the ships themselves understood strategy, collaboration, and foresight. Lena realized that the fleet was teaching her and her crew, subtly guiding humanity to think as a unified force. The aliens had not only given tools, they had given wisdom embedded in machines. Communication attempts with the approaching vessels initially failed. Their signals were encoded in forms beyond human comprehension. Lena and her team worked tirelessly, using the fleet's systems to analyze and decode the transmissions. Days passed, each moment a mix of tension and discovery. Slowly, patterns emerged, mathematical sequences, rhythmic pulses, and harmonic signals that suggested intelligence, coordination, and, perhaps, curiosity. The aliens had prepared humanity not just to repair their planet, but to engage with the cosmos on a level never before imagined. Meanwhile, Earth adapted to the ongoing changes with astonishing resilience. Cities now operated autonomously when necessary, disaster zones were repaired in hours, and humanity's understanding of science accelerated at a pace that felt almost unnatural. The coffee continued to play its subtle role, enhancing cognition and creativity in ways no one could fully explain. People worked in harmony with the alien technologies, often producing solutions before problems had fully emerged. Humanity was learning to think not just individually, but collectively, as a single species operating with purpose and clarity. The first encounter with the unknown ships was brief but intense. The vessels moved with astonishing speed, testing the fleet's defenses and attempting maneuvers that challenged human intuition. Lena coordinated Earth's response, using every tool the upgrades provided. The fleet responded with precision, adapting to every movement, shielding the planet, and countering attacks without unnecessary escalation. The humans watching from below could only marvel. The alien technology had amplified not just Earth's defenses, but humanity's ability to understand, anticipate, and act. After the initial skirmish, Lena realized something critical. The unknown ships were not purely hostile. They were testing humanity. Their movements were deliberate, probing weaknesses, observing reactions, and gauging strategic thinking. Humanity's upgrades, the fleet, even the coffee, were part of a grander challenge. The aliens had prepared Earth not just to survive, but to evolve, to think, and to act with intelligence beyond instinct. Reports came from all over the planet. Civilians described strange phenomena, lights in the sky that seemed to respond to thoughts, machines that completed tasks before instructions were given, and bursts of inspiration that led to sudden, revolutionary inventions. Humanity was awakening. Every human seemed to be part of a larger, interconnected system, guided subtly by the alien gifts. The upgrades had not only repaired the planet, they had enhanced the species itself. As the days passed, humanity grew more confident. Lena led simulations with the fleet, practicing strategies, testing defenses, and learning to communicate with both alien systems and human crews. Each exercise revealed new possibilities: faster travel, advanced energy management, coordinated planetary defense, and even long-distance communication methods that bypassed conventional limitations. The fleet was more than a weapon. It was a mentor, a guide, and a catalyst for growth. Yet the unknown ships remained at the edge of the system, observing silently. Humanity had learned much, but the universe was vast, and its challenges were only beginning. Lena understood that the aliens' gifts were a test, a challenge, and an opportunity. The fleet, the upgrades, and even the coffee were all tools to prepare humanity for a future that had yet to unfold. On Earth, life continued to change. Cities thrived, ecosystems recovered, and people worked together in ways previously unimaginable. The coffee shops became centers of collaboration where engineers, scientists, and thinkers shared ideas and developed solutions at a speed that astonished even the most experienced leaders. Humanity had been given a chance not just to survive, but to flourish, and for the first time, there was a sense of unity across the planet. Then, one morning, the fleet detected a new signal from deep space. It was faint, rhythmic, and unlike anything previously observed. Lena studied the data, her mind racing as the alien systems translated the patterns into comprehensible sequences. It was a message, a greeting, and perhaps an invitation. The universe was reaching out, and humanity was finally ready to respond. Lena stood on the observation deck of the flagship, looking down at Earth. The planet was alive with energy, progress, and hope. The fleet hovered in formation above, a silent guardian and teacher, and in her hand, a cup of coffee steamed gently, warming her palms and reminding her that even amidst cosmic challenges, some human comforts remained constant. Humanity had received gifts beyond imagination. Repairs, upgrades, a war fleet, and the strange, empowering coffee. Yet these were only tools. The real test lay ahead, in understanding, in courage, and in the ability to rise as a species that could meet the challenges of the cosmos. Lena knew that the journey was just beginning, and that the universe held both wonders and dangers that Earth had never known. For now, humanity celebrated, worked, and prepared. The unknown ships waited, the fleet stood ready, and the planet thrummed with life and intelligence. And as Lena took a sip of coffee, she understood that the greatest adventure had only just begun, and that humans were no longer merely survivors. They were pioneers, thinkers, and warriors of a world reborn. The days turned into weeks, and humanity began to understand that the gifts they had received were not merely for repair, they were a call to action. Cities hummed with efficiency, forests thrived, and energy flowed with perfect harmony. The fleet remained in orbit, its presence both reassuring and intimidating. Commander Lena Torres felt the weight of responsibility pressing on her more than ever. Humanity had been handed tools of unimaginable power, and the unknown ships at the edge of the system had not disappeared. They were still there, watching, waiting, testing. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly on Earth, using the alien technology to push the limits of human understanding. Propulsion systems that had once seemed impossible now moved from theory to testing. Communications devices spanned continents instantly, allowing real-time coordination between labs and cities. Even medicine advanced at a pace that left doctors and researchers awestruck. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were now being eradicated in months. The upgrades were more than technology. They were a teacher guiding the human race toward a new level of intelligence. And then came the first invitation. The unknown ships sent signals that could now be partially decoded. They were not hostile. They were challenging humanity. Their message was simple but profound. Prove your worth, show your understanding, survive the test, or remain unknown. Lena read the transmission in disbelief. This was a test of ingenuity, courage, and collaboration, not just raw firepower. The aliens had given humanity tools, but it was up to humans to prove that they could use them wisely. The fleet responded as if aware of the challenge. Its shields pulsed, weapons systems aligned, and sensors swept the edges of the solar system. Lena felt the rhythm of the ships, the same rhythm she had come to sense in her bones. The fleet was alive, not just in mechanics, but in intelligence, and it guided her decisions in subtle ways. Every maneuver, every strategy, felt as if it had been thought of by thousands of minds simultaneously. Humanity had not been given mere machines. They had been given partners in thought. Earth's population had begun to adjust to the rapid changes. Schools implemented learning systems that adapted to every student's abilities. Children grasped concepts of physics, engineering, and mathematics at a speed that stunned educators. Artists created works that reflected humanity's evolving understanding of the universe. Even politicians began to cooperate more effectively, guided by insights from enhanced data analysis. Humanity was evolving as a species, preparing for the test that lay beyond the solar system. The coffee remained a constant companion. Every morning, Lena and her team drank it before simulations and strategy sessions. Its effects were subtle, yet profound. Thought patterns sharpened, intuition deepened, and ideas that once seemed impossible now flowed naturally. On Earth, coffee shops became centers of collaboration, filled with thinkers, inventors, and leaders brainstorming solutions to challenges they had only begun to understand. The beverage had become more than a drink. It was a catalyst for human potential. Then the first confrontation began. Small scout ships from the unknown fleet entered the solar system, testing the reactions of Earth's defenses. Lena coordinated the fleet's response, directing energy shields and positioning vessels with precision. The scouts moved unpredictably, probing for weaknesses, but the fleet adapted instantly, countering their maneuvers without unnecessary aggression. Humanity's strategy was no longer reactionary. It was proactive, guided by the alien systems and by Lena's growing understanding of interstellar tactics. On the surface, people watched the sky with a mixture of fear and excitement. Children pointed at shimmering streaks of light above cities. Adults held their breath as the fleet responded with speed and precision. Humanity had been given power, and now it was learning to wield it. The alien upgrades did not act alone. They required human judgment, courage, and creativity. The test had begun, and Earth was rising to meet it. The scouts retreated after several hours, and Lena studied the data carefully. Their movements were deliberate, patterns designed to teach, probe, and observe. She realized that the unknown fleet was not merely a threat. It was a puzzle. Every maneuver contained lessons, every challenge an opportunity to grow. Humanity had been prepared for this moment, not by accident, but by design. The upgrades, the fleet, and even the coffee had all been part of a plan to awaken potential. Across Earth, collaboration intensified. Scientists, engineers, and strategists worked in unprecedented cooperation. Ideas flowed freely, solutions emerged faster than ever, and humanity's collective intellect expanded. Cities became centers of innovation, laboratories hubs of discovery, and schools breeding grounds for the next generation of thinkers. Humanity was no longer a collection of individuals. It was a species learning to operate as a single, coordinated entity. Lena continued to train with the fleet, exploring its full capabilities. The ships could manipulate energy in ways that defied human understanding, travel through space with unimaginable speed, and communicate across vast distances instantaneously. Lena learned to synchronize with the fleet, feeling its pulse and anticipating its responses. Together they simulated battles, mapped galaxies, and explored strategies that could safeguard Earth. The fleet was a teacher, and humanity was a student eager to learn. Then came the second wave. Larger vessels from the unknown fleet entered the solar system, testing Earth's defenses on a broader scale. Lena directed the flagship with precision, coordinating with Earth's military forces and scientific teams. The unknown ships probed for weaknesses, but humanity responded with intelligence, creativity, and foresight. Shields adapted to every strike, Energy pulses countered threats, and new strategies emerged in real time. Humanity had learned quickly. The upgrades had not only repaired the planet, but had elevated the species to a level capable of meeting the challenge. The world below watched in awe. News broadcasts captured the fleet's maneuvers. Scientists explained the alien technology in ways the public could grasp, and ordinary people felt the thrill of being part of something greater than themselves. Humanity had asked for repairs, but it had been given a chance to prove itself, and the planet was rising to the occasion. Lena sensed something remarkable during the second wave. The unknown fleet's movements were no longer purely tests. They were signals, patterns designed to communicate. Using the upgrades, she deciphered subtle messages embedded in the ship's maneuvers, lessons in strategy, logic, and cooperation. Humanity was being guided not just to survive, but to understand, adapt, and grow. The challenge was not merely physical, it was intellectual, ethical, and collective. Meanwhile, Earth continued to thrive. Energy systems became self-sustaining. Cities operated with unprecedented efficiency, and ecosystems recovered rapidly. Humans worked together more effectively than ever before, inspired by the alien upgrades and guided subtly by the fleet. The coffee remained central to this transformation, sharpening minds, enhancing collaboration, and inspiring breakthroughs. Humanity was evolving, learning to think and act as one species. The final test began with a subtle signal from deep space. The unknown fleet coordinated a massive maneuver, moving in formations that challenged every lesson humanity had learned. Lena directed the flagship with focus, her mind in sync with the fleet. Energy shields expanded, weapon systems aligned, and strategies unfolded across multiple levels of engagement. Humanity was no longer reacting, it was leading, innovating, and adapting in real time. The test had reached its peak. Across Earth, people felt the intensity of the moment. Scientists monitored data, strategists planned contingencies, and civilians watched the sky with a mix of awe and hope. The upgrades had prepared humanity for this challenge, but success required more than technology. It required courage, creativity, and unity. Lena realized that humanity's greatest strength was not the fleet or the upgrades, but its ability to think, adapt, and work together. The final engagement was intense but brief. The unknown fleet tested humanity's defenses, probed every weakness, and observed every decision. Lena and her team anticipated each maneuver, using the upgrades to respond with intelligence and precision. The fleet adapted instantly, learning alongside humanity. When the unknown ships finally withdrew, there was no doubt. Earth had passed the test. Humanity had proven its worth not through aggression, but through ingenuity, cooperation, and resilience. Celebrations erupted across the planet. Cities illuminated with joy, schools held lessons in collaboration, and scientists documented breakthroughs that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. Lena stood on the observation deck of the flagship, looking down at Earth. The planet was alive with energy, innovation, and hope. The fleet hovered above, a guardian and mentor, its pulse in harmony with the human spirit. The coffee remained in her hand, a simple reminder of humanity's journey. It was a symbol of clarity, focus, and inspiration, the small human elements that had guided them through extraordinary challenges. Lena understood that the gifts they had received were more than tools. They were catalysts for growth, tests of intellect and character, and invitations to step into a larger universe. Humanity had been repaired, upgraded, and challenged. It had faced unknown forces, deciphered complex signals, and proven its capability to think, adapt, and cooperate. The species had grown stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Earth was no longer a planet merely surviving. It was a beacon of potential, ready to explore, innovate, and engage with the vast cosmos. The unknown fleet had withdrawn for now, leaving behind a sense of anticipation. Lena knew that the universe was far from simple and that greater challenges awaited. But humanity had been given more than power. It had been given understanding, resilience, and the knowledge that it could rise above any trial. The story of Earth was no longer one of survival alone. It was a story of growth, discovery, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. As Lena looked down at the planet, she felt a surge of pride and determination. Humanity had passed the test, but the journey was only beginning. The upgrades, the fleet, and the coffee had opened a door to a future beyond imagination. And standing at that threshold, Lena knew that humans were ready to step into the stars, not as prey, but as pioneers, thinkers, and warriors of a world reborn. Humanity had passed the first challenge. The unknown fleet had tested them, probed them, and observed their reactions. And now, as the alien ships withdrew to the edges of the solar system, Earth seemed at peace. But peace was a fragile concept for a species that had been awakened to possibilities far beyond its understanding. Commander Lena Torres understood this better than anyone. The upgrades, the fleet, and even the strange, powerful coffee had all prepared humanity for a world they were only beginning to comprehend. Earth itself had changed. Cities were no longer simply places where humans lived. They had become centers of thought, innovation, and exploration. Energy flowed in precise patterns, recycling endlessly. Roads and transit systems anticipated traffic and optimized movement without intervention. Agricultural zones produced food in quantities that eliminated hunger and allowed for surplus storage. Natural disasters were mitigated by predictive systems that anticipated weather patterns and shifted resources to protect life. Humanity had been given not only the power to survive, but the tools to thrive. The fleet remained in orbit, a silent guardian and mentor. Lena had learned to synchronize with its intelligence completely. She could sense the pulse of the ships, anticipate their responses, and coordinate strategies that no human mind could have conceived alone. The fleet was more than a weapon. It was a partner, a teacher, and a guide. And the humans who operated it had grown faster, smarter, and more coordinated than ever before. Despite the triumph, Lena knew that humanity's true test was only beginning. The unknown fleet had not vanished. It had left signals, patterns, and data that hinted at a larger cosmic structure. Other civilizations, other challenges, and other mysteries awaited. The gifts from the aliens were not merely tools for survival. They were invitations to step fully into the universe as capable participants, not passive observers. Humanity had been called to rise, and now the time had come to answer that call. Across the planet, humans continued to adapt. Scientists developed propulsion systems that allowed ships to leave the solar system in days rather than years. Communication systems spanned light years instantly, allowing real-time coordination with probes and autonomous ships exploring distant regions. Medical technologies eradicated diseases previously thought incurable, and humans could now live longer, healthier lives, free from limitations that had once constrained them. The upgrades had rewritten not just technology, but the very possibilities of life on Earth. The coffee remained central to this transformation. Lena and her team drank it daily before planning missions, analyzing data, and exploring new strategies. Its effects were subtle yet profound. It enhanced cognition, sharpened intuition, and inspired creativity. Across Earth, the beverage had become a symbol of human potential, fueling ideas that pushed the species forward faster than ever before. While it was a small detail compared to the fleet or the upgrades, its influence on humanity's rapid evolution could not be understated. Then came the first encounter beyond the solar system. Humanity had launched exploratory vessels equipped with alien upgrades and fleet guidance. These ships moved through space with unprecedented speed, mapping distant stars, planets, and phenomena, and they found evidence of civilizations, some friendly, some wary, and some openly hostile. Lena coordinated these missions from the flagship, guiding them, learning alongside them, and ensuring that humanity's expansion was careful, intelligent, and measured. One day, a vessel reported contact with an alien civilization that seemed technologically comparable to humanity. Initial scans showed hesitation and caution on the part of the new species. Lena decided on a careful approach. Using the fleet's guidance, she orchestrated a demonstration of Earth's capabilities, showing not just power, but intelligence, creativity, and respect. The aliens observed, and slowly, lines of communication opened. Humanity had learned the first lesson of interstellar diplomacy. Strength alone was not enough. Intelligence, cooperation, and strategy were equally crucial. Meanwhile, back on Earth, people had begun to embrace the new era fully. Cities became cultural and scientific hubs where education, creativity, and problem-solving were celebrated. Children learned with guidance from advanced systems, experiencing worlds of knowledge that had previously been inaccessible. Scientists, engineers, and thinkers collaborated without borders, inspired by the gifts of the aliens and the guidance of the fleet. Humanity was not only surviving, it was thriving, learning, and growing as a species ready for the stars. But challenges remained. Some humans resisted change, fearing dependence on alien technology. Others worried that the power humans now possessed could corrupt society if misused. Lena understood these concerns. Power without wisdom could be dangerous, and humanity's rapid evolution required guidance. The fleet, the upgrades, and even the coffee provided not just tools, but subtle direction, teaching humans how to balance capability with responsibility. The aliens' true purpose gradually became clearer. They had not merely repaired Earth, they had accelerated its evolution. The upgrades enhanced not only technology, but human cognition, perception, and problem-solving. The fleet acted as both protector and mentor. The coffee, seemingly trivial, encouraged clarity of thought and innovation. Together, these gifts were a curriculum for survival, expansion, and engagement in the wider universe. Humanity was being prepared to step fully into its role as a capable, independent species among the stars. Lena led the flagship on a deep space mission, guided by the pulse of the fleet and the instincts she had developed alongside it. As they moved past the outer edges of known space, they encountered phenomena that tested every lesson humanity had learned: gravitational anomalies, energy storms, and signals from civilizations that had long forgotten peace. Each challenge required not only technology, but intellect, creativity, and courage. Humanity's evolution was being tested, and Lena felt the weight of every decision. During one particularly dangerous mission, a rogue alien vessel approached, its intentions unclear. Lena coordinated the fleet with precision, anticipating attacks, maneuvering shields, and analyzing patterns in real time. But instead of responding with aggression, she observed, decoded, and strategized. The rogue ship eventually altered its course, responding to humanity's demonstration of intelligence and strategy. The lesson was clear: strength was important, but understanding and adaptability were paramount. Back on Earth, humanity continued to evolve socially and culturally. Cities became models of efficiency and collaboration. Knowledge flowed freely, and innovation became a daily occurrence. The coffee remained a symbol of focus and clarity, inspiring breakthroughs in every field. People began to see themselves not just as Earthlings, but as participants in a larger cosmic community. The upgrades had given them power, but the fleet and the challenges beyond the solar system had taught them wisdom. The next major encounter involved a coalition of alien civilizations, each observing humanity with curiosity. Lena led the flagship in demonstrations of both strength and intellect. The fleet's systems guided every maneuver, while the humans' creativity and cooperation impressed the other species. Humanity's combination of ingenuity, adaptability, and ethical decision-making became apparent. They were no longer a fledgling species. They were capable, aware, and ready to engage responsibly with the universe. Meanwhile, back on Earth, communities continued to flourish. Schools, research centers, and cities functioned in unprecedented harmony. Environmental systems were optimized, eliminating scarcity and waste. Humans were healthier, smarter, and more connected than ever. The gifts from the aliens, repairs, upgrades, fleet, and coffee had elevated the species, not just technologically, but socially, ethically, and intellectually. Humanity had grown into its potential. Finally, the unknown fleet returned, not as a test, but as recognition. Their vessels observed, analyzed, and then sent signals of acknowledgement. Humanity had passed the trials, learned the lessons, and proven its worth. Lena stood on the observation deck of the flagship, looking down at Earth, a planet transformed and thriving. The fleet hovered above, a testament to guidance and partnership, its pulse in harmony with the human spirit. The coffee remained in her hand, a simple reminder that even amidst interstellar challenges, the smallest, most human of rituals could inspire clarity, focus, and greatness. Humanity had not just survived the upgrades, the fleet, or the tests. They had risen, adapted, and proved their capability to the universe. As Lena gazed at the horizon, she understood the significance of the moment. Humanity had been given gifts, faced challenges, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. Earth was no longer a solitary planet. It was a beacon of ingenuity, resilience, and hope. The species had proven that it could rise above any obstacle, think with unprecedented clarity, and act with courage and wisdom. The universe was vast, filled with wonders, dangers, and opportunities. But humanity, now fully awakened and prepared, was ready. The fleet, the upgrades, and the coffee had been catalysts for evolution, but the real power lay within the humans themselves, their minds, their cooperation, and their determination to rise. The stars beckoned, and for the first time, humanity did not look up in fear. They looked up with ambition, curiosity, and confidence. Commander Lena Torres stood tall, a representative of a species reborn, ready to step into the cosmos as pioneers, thinkers, and warriors. The gifts had been extraordinary, but the story of humanity, its courage, ingenuity, and spirit, was what truly made the species unstoppable. Earth had been repaired, upgraded, and challenged. Humanity had risen, and now at last it was ready to meet the universe on its own terms, a shining example of what a species could achieve when given tools, guidance, and the will to rise together.